Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you. I've kind of cut this in at the beginning of the video, so it is going to start again. But what I would like you to do is try and watch the video before skipping to the end, because the price changes quite dramatically and I've only just found out on the day it was due to go live. I filmed this last week and then things have happened. I will explain that more at the very end and you can see what you think then. Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you. And just recently, I did actually, although as you can see by the title, I'm not here to talk about the NZXT relays, but I did review the NZXT relays recently. And I think I'm one of the few people on the planet, or one of the few reviewers on the planet, that was left a little bit underwhelmed. My main issue was bass though. But they did have something going for them, which was compact size compared to what I have been using in the Shedio recently, which are the Mackie CR5s. Now the CR5s are vast. They are huge. There is an 8-inch driver, a lovely silk tweeter at the top, but they are massive. Not only are they massive, but the amount of audio they put out is just, you could go as far as to say overwhelming. I have my PC set up at 50%. I then have the speakers turned at 50%, and I just used the dial that came with, because it's a two-part thing, and I have the speakers and then the separate subwoofer, and the subwoofer comes with a volume dial. So if I've ever already set the PC going into the volume dial at 50%, and then when it gets to the speakers, it's already turned down to 50% again, kind of goes how far to show you that these can put out an immense amount of audio. But I digress. With the relays, I wasn't that happy with the bass, and it felt like if you walked away from the subwoofer, it just stopped working. Well, not stopped working, you just couldn't hear it. It was very underwhelming. But anyway, I liked the fact that the white speakers were quite compact. And originally when they arrived, I did think they would end up here to save space. And I mentioned that in the review. And because of that, Mackie have sent me these, which are the CR5X. These are the Bluetooth model, so you can connect Bluetooth through them as well. They do them without Bluetooth. And the critical difference is, if you don't want Bluetooth so that you can connect your phone or whatever you want to as well, then you can save yourself £20. So these come in with the Bluetooth at $220. The 5X without the Bluetooth, you can find them for £200. And if you shop around, sometimes even lower, which means that they come in at even less money than the NZXT setup. The only time that it does get complicated is the NZXT subwoofer, which I wouldn't say is worth buying, is significantly cheaper than the Mackie one, because the Mackie one, if you shop around, you can find it between £200 and £250. Now the Mackie stuff is a crossover point. Mackie is actually renowned for studio equipment, but this kit, the CR5, the CR8, they do a 4, they do a 3. It's actually a crossover point between people that want to do some light studio work at home and also gaming. So it kind of incorporates good audio quality with a kind of gamery edge, which is why I'm assuming they chose green because of NVIDIA or something, I don't really know. Although they have done limited edition silver ones, they have got some white models out there as well, which I would love to have. Anyway, like I said, it's a crossover point between good audio at home, studio work, maybe not professional studio work, but for those people that are tinkering and like to listen, and then also good gaming audio as well. Now, like I said, these are the CR5s, and that is a hint to the size of the main speaker. Okay, so when you get them out of the package, what you are greeted with is your two speakers, which are still wrapped in plastic, but they do give you some sound isolation pads as well for your desk, which is a really nice touch. And it's just bass isolation foam. You can set the angle slightly differently if you want. There's one for each. You do get the cables that you're going to need inside, and effectively you have a powered speaker and you have a slave speaker. The plastics always wind me up, so you'll have to bear with me while we rip them apart. So here are the back of the two speakers. Most importantly, slave speaker, just a basic speaker over there. You've got the inputs on the back which connect into the outputs on the back of the wired one, or the active one as we'll call it. Input wise, you've got two TRS connectors here which can be balanced or unbalanced, and these are like fat headphone connectors that you could be inputting from a mixer desk or maybe some kind of DAC from your desktop, depending on the setup that you're running at home. And then you have two other inputs on the back, which are the RCA, or what I call phono, probably quite incorrectly, and 5mm jack. You can also say which side your master or your active speaker is, with a little switch at the bottom, depending on whether it's on the left or the right. And the only other way to input into the unit itself is if you press the button over here when it's on. This is the button for the Bluetooth, because you can connect into that completely separately as well from your phone or your iPad or any Bluetooth device, basically, even from your laptop if you wanted to do that sort of thing wirelessly. Now, round to the front, there is a headphone port here, which if you did connect a headphone into, it cuts the speakers completely instantaneously and just switches to your headphones, which is a nice clean way to be able to have a port directly on your desk that you don't necessarily have to mess around with next to your PC or whatever, but also by connecting it in here does switch your speakers off, so that's pretty cool. You can see the brushed finish with the metal around the outside. It's like an aluminium brushed panel. It's very subtle though. It's difficult for me to show it to you on the camera, but it is definitely there if you want to look for it. You've also got, with the speakers overall, it's 80 watts of power. You've got the 5-inch main woofer cone here, and then a 0.75-inch silk dome tweeter at the top. There's also, which I didn't really mention, the tuned bass ports round the back of the units, which I probably should have told you about before. And also it's a full wood, solid wood, with a fair amount of weight cabinet. It's not a cheap construction. Right then, on to the actual review side of things. And I do need to explain, because there are a couple of ways that I can test it, and I also need to explain that I have some direct comparisons that I can do. I know I've already said to you about the fact that I have the CR8, but it does mean that I can listen to a track, put it back to the beginning, make a couple of wire changes, and then listen to them on another speaker as well, pretty much instantaneously. So very direct comparisons. Also, and critically, as you'll understand in a minute, the fact that I can run with the sub and without the sub. When I run them direct into my PC, little green port on the motherboard, literally nice and simple, plug into that 3.5mm jack, out into two phonos or RCAs, whatever you want to put it, into the back of the main speaker. If I run the sub, then it comes out of the same port, but it goes into the sub first, and then you get the output that goes out into the speakers. There's a reason why that makes a difference, which I'll tell you about as well. And that is because if you use the sub, depending on where you have the crossover, depends on the signal that you send up to the speakers itself. So if, for argument's sake, you imagine the crossover as just a complete circle, and between 6 AM and 9 AM is what the sub is dealing with, the rest of the dial is what gets sent up to the speakers, and you can obviously tweak accordingly. The more or the less that you send the speakers is the more or the less that is done by the sub. The sub does the lower half, the speakers get the rest, and that can make a huge difference, because you will notice that when you plug these directly into your PC, they're getting all of the signal So they are dealing with all of the bass, and that is noticeable when you start to crank the volume up. As I've said, I normally set my PC to 50% and then just use the little dial on the speaker itself. Now, with my PC at 50%, I could pretty much max out the speakers themselves without any issues. But once you go up to sort of 70-75% on the PC, then when you start to turn the speakers up, they do start to distort at very high volumes. But if you run the sub, you can almost max them out completely without that distortion, because the lower end frequencies aren't being dealt with by the speakers themselves and are being done by the sub. If you have a look at the sub, I was running my crossover at about 70 Hertz. So every sort of 70-75 Hertz and below was being done by the sub, which is very low end frequencies, and the rest was being done by the speakers themselves. But I do need to say, if you're looking at this and thinking this is going to be massively expensive, I've put 2 links underneath for Amazon, and it is an affiliate link, and I never ever do this, but I feel these are worthy of it. Mackie have these directly on Amazon for £169, and the sub is £169 as well. I can find these easily online for £250. So it is, and the speakers are the non-Bluetooth ones, by the way. That's why they're a little bit cheaper. But I can find these for £250 online easily. So for £360, you could have the sub as well. Now, with the speakers on the desk plugged directly, there is a lot of bass there. But as I've said, when you really turn the volume up, and I mean really turn the volume up, you can get a bit of distortion. But they make an awful lot of noise, sort of like audio, like the amount that it will actually throw at you before that distortion is rather shocking in comparison to the NZXTs that I've already mentioned. Like, they don't even deserve to be in the same category. The clarity is there, and the amount of bass that comes out without the sub is nuts. You could easily run without. I would personally say that the only reason these outdo the NZXT with the sub, as in just these two, but the others would be 2.1. So if you've got the NZXT and the sub, just these speakers beat it. End of day, like not even any competition. If you wanted to upgrade to the sub, it is going to give you that option to be able to turn the sub off completely for late nights, but then you're not going to then get the full frequency up to the speakers still, so you're still going to be lacking in that low end. That is something you do have to consider. I do wish partly that when you backed the sub off to turn it off, that it would then change the crossover point for the speakers, but I'm probably asking too much. But if you did want this, then A, it gives you the tunability to be able to choose your crossover points, but also really deliver that deep bass for those of you out there that really love to get immersed into your films and your games, or most critically, your music. And it's a really decent, cheap, I don't want to say cheap because 360 quid is not cheap, or 380 quid is not cheap, but it's definitely a cost-effective way to go about it. 340, I think it works out. I've done it 170. Yeah, my maths is bad. But direct from the PC, just these on their own, I was incredibly surprised. Compared to the CR8s, yes, there is less bass, but with the CR8s, there is a lot of bass, but it also can become, I feel, overwhelming because there is so much audio, and it's not bad. It's very crisp and clear, and it's all right. But it's almost like they are party speakers, and you don't want a full party setup for a single room, or you are literally just absolutely engrossed in your audio and stuff. When I first fitted these, I was a bit like, whoa. That's why my system is run at 50%, and then the speakers themselves are always run at 50% as well. And pretty much all I ever did was use the volume knob then. So they were both running on half, and yet I still turned up and down with this, and I very rarely ever got onto max. But having the adjuster for the sub, because it's a two-sided wheel, and the top is volume, and then the bottom is basically a sub volume, which is really nice. Just goes on your desk, plugs into the back of the sub. It's lovely and it's nice and easy, and that's how I've been running them. But if I'm honest now, I'm almost at the point where I'm like, I might just run those direct, because I'm never going to have it loud enough to ever hit distortion with those, although to be fair I wouldn't with those either, but I just like that there's a little bit more depth there. So I'm actually going to add another link in for those underneath as well, just in case you think to yourself, I have this space for the 8, I want the 8, I'm just going to go all in. But I think these are a lovely, lovely, decent set of speakers to go on a desk for those of you out there that like audio, maybe do a little bit of music, messing around, film editing, something like that, but critically gaming and music. They would be the two linchpins for these, but also for those of you out there that just don't have the space on your desk for anything enormous. These are the 5s. They do the 4s, but I've never reviewed the 4s. They've got some white ones out there as well, so I can't speak for those, but there are other options out there. But I think these, for 170 quid, is almost a no-brainer if you're looking for something that is better than something just very PC-esque, like maybe the sort of small RGB speakers that you might get from like Creative or something. They are just beautiful and amazing value for money. And that is why I'm not even going to give them the VFM award. I'm actually going to give these the TTL award. And I don't hand that out very often. And that is because I've had the big ones. These properly shocked me. And the fact that I could run these even without the sub and still be happy, I think should speak volumes. So I'm not telling you to buy everything. I'm just trying to give you the information to decide what is right for you. If you just want a set of speakers, if you need a sub, you want to have that extra drop, you want to have that extra tunability, you don't care about your neighbours. And if you're deaf, or you actually want to project to your whole street, then maybe they're the ones for you. And the Shedio, where I am now, has 150mm rock wool, sound deadening insulation in the walls and in the ceiling, and then there's also sound deadening plasterboard throughout. I tried to do it as best as I possibly could do without spending a fortune, and they still pummel the walls. You can actually put your hand on the outside and just unreal. So there's so much there. So there you go. To be very clear, because I haven't said it yet because I got a bit excited and my camera battery ran out before and it completely put me off my flow. These are very light and airy speakers. The balance is there, the clarity is there, unless you get the volume turned right up. I would personally say that if I was going to be running these for the music that I listen to, which was a wide range between premium Spotify, there's a lot of premium things that I pay for online to stream, but I've also got some files with mixed genres on my PC at a high bit rate as well, so I could listen to a wide array. Now I do lean towards the streaming side of things because that is pretty much where most people are. I think if you are at the incredibly high bit rate files on your PC side of things, then you may be more of an audiophile than these will kind of, warrant. I think you might want something slightly more upmarket than these. But saying that, I do also think that if you are slightly more of an audiophile, but critically are on a stringent budget, and getting a hold of some high bitrate audio doesn't necessarily have to cost much, if anything, that these will definitely put a smile on your face compared to spending £230 on the other brand that I keep mentioning up, or probably £250 pretty much anywhere else. You're just going to need to get your equalizer set up and decide how you're going to be feeding them, and then make the little tweaks on the back to see how, you know, you're going to be going with it. But you will know what's best for you, and that is it. But as I've said, TTL award, I do not hand that out very often, but these have actually put me more in my place than I would have said they did, because they, like I said, were a bit overwhelming for this small space, but these were epic. Now I just have to try and decide what I'm going to do with these now. And I don't know whether to leave these down here because it's more of a party build place, and then put these up in the old office, new office, because it's been redone. I honestly don't mind, or don't know, I should say. But one thing I will tell you is they're both still going to be getting used because I absolutely love them. And that's going to be completely down to you to decide what you want to do at home, because like I said, no shilling, because that keeps coming up. As soon as someone likes something, it's all about shilling. Honestly, don't care. Like, if you want to buy them, I've put links underneath. If you don't want to buy them, or you think that there are better options out there, cool, let's have a chat about it. I'm completely down to converse and us debate with each other, because that's what these videos are meant to be about. It's like mates in a pub having a chat. No one's necessarily right, no one's necessarily wrong, but we are all allowed our own opinions. It's all bright and healthy and smiley and non-clickbaity. So, CR5X. These are the BTs, the links down below. The 169 ones are the non-Bluetooth ones. So you're just going to have to decide whether you want to pay that little bit extra for it. I personally don't think you need to. You do have Bluetooth on the sub though. So if you end up buying the sub, you don't need to have Bluetooth on the speakers as well. There's a clever point for you. You don't need Bluetooth twice. Anyway, this has been the tiniest one with another video for you with some speakers that I've absolutely fallen in love with. Sign me up to the Mackie Fanboy Club. So, congratulations if you got to the end. Anyone that got to this bit by actually watching it without skipping, you get internet ice cream today, and you can tell me about it in the comments. Don't worry, it's just a weird thing that me and all the regulars do that watch the videos. Okay, so I said there had been a revelation. Now what I did before the review was I looked online for prices. I had a Google, just Googling the model name, and they were coming in around the £200 to £230 mark. Go through Google Shopping and they were easily found there. Then I had a look on Amazon and I saw they were 169. That is why there's an affiliate link underneath, because they are 169. But stop. Because when I went from the Mackie website to their official distributor that have a retail outlet, the price was somewhat lower than expected. So, because it was so much lower, I emailed them and I said, I think there's an error on your website. There is no way that these speakers are £109. Not £169, £109. That puts them at less than half the price of the NZXTs. Polar, the distributor, emailed me back. Oh no, Tom, that is not an error. We have a lot of stock that's just arrived, so we're putting them out on offer. We've recalculated, or they've done whatever they had to do, and they're like, we're just going to be selling this batch cheaper. So, the whole of my review was based on the price being £169. I have just found out they are £109. Again, that's less than half the price of the NZXTs. I'm going to let you make your own mind up, but I personally think that at £109, this is probably one of the best bargains I have seen for some time. That could be seen as being 25% off from the online price. It's epic. So if you were on the fence at 169, you're now excited at 109. You need to remember that the affiliate link is there, so you can still go and see the affiliate link prices. But remember to go to the Polar website, and I'm not being paid in any way or anything like that. There is no kickback for me on this. I am just sharing the fact that I have found somewhere that they are selling these at a ridiculously low price. So, you know where the link is. If you're interested, you can go and do what you do, but we're putting this out pretty close to payday. And I genuinely, for that money, do not think that you will be disappointed. Just remember all the little points that I said to you about plugging directly in the PC in extremely high volumes. And what I have been doing is setting the volume on the speaker or setting it on the PC and leaving the other one fixed, because you can adjust both. So just think about those points, but absolute bargain for 109 quid. And it really does drive the stake in hard into the relay speakers, sadly. And just for the record, I did just try and read NZXT and let them know that I was going to be enthusiastic about telling you about this. So anyway, links are all underneath. Please let me know if you end up buying them. Instagram, Twitter, tell me about it on the Facebook page. I don't care. Please let me know, because I'm genuinely interested in your feedback on these as well.